Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm the biblical translator, and I want to talk about boundaries today because as believers, we tend to loosen our boundaries under the guise that we are Christians, and that's what we feel we should do. So let me get right into it. So, first, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Today, I want us to spend a little time thinking about boundaries because I don't think many of us grow up really understanding what they are. We hear the word a lot nowadays. People talk about setting boundaries, protecting your peace, cutting people off, but sometimes those words can sound a bit harsh. So I thought it might be helpful to look at what boundaries really are. For many years, I thought a boundary meant telling somebody what they could and couldn't do. It doesn't. A boundary is something we set for ourselves. It is simply deciding that we are prepared to accept and what we're not prepared to accept, and what we will do if the line is crossed. So, a boundary isn't about controlling another person, it is about taking responsibility for ourselves. That's quite a different way of looking at it because the truth is, we cannot make another adult change. We cannot make them become kinder. We cannot make them become honest. We cannot make them become reliable. We can ask, we can explain, we can hope, but we cannot control another human being. What we can control is ourselves. We can decide whether we stay in a conversation where someone is shouting at us. We can decide whether we keep lending money that is never repaid. We can decide whether we answer the phone every time someone calls with another crisis they expect us to solve. Those are our decisions. Now, I know for some people that isn't easy, especially if you've spent your life looking after everyone else. Some of us were praised for being helpful. We became the dependable one, the one who always says yes, the one people could call at any time, the one who stepped in whenever someone else's life was falling apart. At first, it feels good because people appreciate you, but after a while, something changes. You realize you're exhausted. You realize you're giving more than you're receiving. You realize that while you've been busy fixing everybody else's problems, you've quietly been ignoring your own needs. That isn't selfishness, that's reality. A healthy boundary says, I care about you, but I also need to care about myself. Many of us have no problem saying I care about you. It's the second half that feels uncomfortable, but I also need to take care of myself. Sometimes we feel guilty about saying no. Sometimes we worry people will think we've changed. Sometimes they will. Because people become accustomed to the version of us that has always said yes, the version of us that has always given. The moment we begin to say, I'm not able to do that, or that doesn't work for me, some people won't like it. Not because we've become unkind, but because the relationship has changed. The convenience has changed. Not everyone who objects to your boundaries is upset because you've done something wrong. Sometimes they're upset because they no longer benefit from the absence of one. That can be quite painful to discover. It can also be incredibly freeing because healthy relationships don't depend on one person constantly sacrificing themselves. Healthy relationships have respect for each other's time, respect for each other's feelings, respect for each other's responsibilities, respect for the word no. I think one of the greatest examples we can follow is Jesus himself. When you read the gospel, Jesus loved people deeply. He healed, he taught, he comforted, but he also walked away to be alone. He didn't heal every single person in every town. He didn't answer every demand placed on him. Sometimes he simply withdrew to pray. Sometimes he said it was time to move on to another place. Even the Son of God recognized there were limits to what he could do in any given moment. If Jesus could have boundaries without loving people any less, perhaps we can too. I also think boundaries reveal something else. They reveal whether a relationship is built on love or expectation, because love can survive a boundary. Love says, I understand. Entitlement says, how dare you? There's quite a difference. Now, I'm not saying boundaries solve every problem. They don't. Some people will ignore them, some people will test them, some people will keep pushing to see if you give in. That is why consistency matters. If today we say no and tomorrow we say yes because we feel guilty, people become confused. A boundary isn't punishment, it's a decision. Over time, people begin to understand that this is who you are now, and if they don't accept it, that's their decision, not yours. There's another side to boundaries as well. Sometimes we need to respect other people's boundaries, not just expect them to respect ours. If someone says they're tired, we shouldn't pressure them. If someone says they can't lend money, we shouldn't make them feel guilty. If someone says they need time alone, we shouldn't assume they no longer care. Respect works both ways. Perhaps that's one reason healthy relationships feel peaceful. Nobody is constantly pulling. No one is constantly demanding. No one is keeping score. Each person understands that both lives matter. You know, one of the hardest lessons many of us learn as we get older is that kindness and boundaries belong together. For years we have thought they were opposites. We thought kind people always said yes. Actually, kind people sometimes say no, because saying yes to everything eventually becomes dishonest. If we're resentful, exhausted, and overwhelmed, our yes isn't coming from love anymore. It's coming from fear. Fear of disappointing someone, fear of rejection, fear of conflict. Real kindness tells the truth, sometimes gently, sometimes firmly, but always honestly. So perhaps today's food for the heart is this. Your value doesn't come from how much you do for other people. It comes from how available you are. Sorry. Your value doesn't come from how much you do for other people. It doesn't come from how available you are. It doesn't come from always rescuing everyone around you. Your value was already given to you by God. Boundaries don't reduce your love. Healthy boundaries simply protect your ability to keep loving without losing yourself in the process. And I think that's something worth carrying with us today, because I remember in my last relationship, that's what I did. I lost myself. I was so busy being kind. I was so busy doing. I was so busy trying to make my partner happy and peaceful and content. I was so busy trying to make up for all the people who had hurt him. And I was busy trying to reassure him that he was safe with me. But when people don't believe it, when people don't have that confidence or have that security themselves, no matter what you do, is going to make a difference. And that's what I found. I became exhausted trying to make him feel safe when nothing I could do could make him feel safe. So that was me losing myself in that relationship, because I was trying to do too much for him, that I left myself out of the equation. And so I think I'm going to stop it there, to be honest. I just want to leave you with these few words to, when you're setting boundaries, try, it's going to be new for some of you. Try not to feel guilty about setting them. Try to realize they're not a punishment. Don't just put boundaries in for boundaries' sake. Don't put a boundary in today and then move the boundary tomorrow. Say you're not going to accept something, and then after a little persuasion, you accept it. This is about you. This is about taking care of you and what you need. If something doesn't feel right, if you feel overexposed, if you feel overused, set boundaries. Let people know where you stand. So I think all I can say now is take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll speak again soon. And hopefully this food for your heart has landed in a place it was meant to. And please share it if you think it's useful for somebody that you know. So that's all for now. You take care now. Bye-bye.